honest, I was a little concerned, but I drive her enough where she should be good. Unfortunately, the battery tender right now is on the Kayo K2 230. Yeah, we went through some deep water recharging the battery, but either way, we're heading off to Cars and Coffee. Should be a good day. It's like 85 already, sunny. We gotta shut this garage. Woo. Careful there. Don't worry, we got the Solana shades, but we have the V8 Vantage Aston Martin. We're going to Cars and Coffee, but today's gonna be a little bit different of a vlog. We're gonna talk about the dirt bike in the garage. So enjoy the car and Cars and Coffee for the first couple minutes, and then onto the dirt bike. So let's switch it up a little bit today. Ready? It gets me every time. I don't know why. It's just so much fun. It's so much fun. Velocity AP killed it. Love the tune. Love the exhaust. The X-Pipe really makes that tone so much crisper. If you don't have the X-Pipe, I would suggest not doing a muffler delete, because the low pitch tone, hold on. That low pitch tone with just the GT4 Supersport muffler delete without the X-Pipe, it's a little much. It is a little much. I drove that way for a year, but it's a little loud in the cabin. X-Pipe, perfect. Perfect. Do both if you're gonna do one. And then obviously the 200 sub cats, that's kind of a given. And then the tune for more power, and the pops and crackles if you want that. So yeah, either way, we're almost at Cars and Coffee. We're like, what, 3-5 minutes away, something like that. Oh yeah, ready? Fortunately, this Honda Pilot's holding us up. Got all of the British cars over here, but I don't know if there's any spots. We got the MGs out in full force, the Triumphs, the TVRs, the Lotuses, all the British cars. No other Astons though. Well, the gas light is on, which means you get to see how expensive it is to fill this bad boy up. I think it's like over 20-gallon fuel tank, which is pretty crazy. 15 miles. That's right, 15 miles to empty tank. I think we got this. Just a couple more miles to the gas station. That's gonna be an expensive fill up. When it goes from 15 miles to dash miles to empty, that's probably pretty bad, right? We're so close, we're so close. I might be rolling in neutral. That was a close call. All right, we are home now. We got the Aston Martin tucked away. We need to wash her, she's real dirty. But either way, we have the K2 Kayo
230cc dirt bike. So I picked this thing up, $3,300 out the door, a little on the high side, but it is what it is. It was fully assembled, ready to go at the dealership. They obviously checked all the fluids and stuff like that. But so far, so good. This last weekend, I went to Hatfield McCoy. Well, let's just say she survived, not thrived. Surviving, not thriving. There we go. Now, she did pretty well, but let's just point out some of the weak points on these bikes. If you're looking at one, I weigh about 175. With all my gear on, you're probably looking at 185, 190. Obviously, like helmet, boots, Camelback with water, that kind of stuff. That's pretty much it. I added these aftermarket handguards. They're like kind of on, kind of not. They're good enough. They definitely move if you drop the bike on them or something, but they're good enough. They serve their purpose. I put this Acerbis skid plate on. It's got one bolt. Other than that, you can see it's actually zip tied on the other side. It was too wide of a gap right here. You can see how big of a gap there is between that bolt. So zip tied it there, zip tied it in the back, stayed on beautifully actually the entire time, no issues. I did have to replace one zip tie which broke off. And then here you can see I put this Mad Dog like seat cover on top of the seat, adds a little bit more cushioning. Wasn't sore whatsoever riding 3 days straight. We probably did 50 to 80 miles a day. The first day a little bit less because we got a late start because the part broke on one of the side-by-sides. But then we probably did 60 and 80 miles the last 2 days, maybe like 40, 50 the first day. So not too bad. The bike itself, pretty solid power. I would say first gear is very short. Second gear definitely have to be in the upper RPMs to have power. It'll definitely bog down and bog out if you're too low. Chain, this is a weak point. The chain that comes on the bike, I think other people have had this issue, but it stretches like crazy. So I actually removed a link before this trip. In order to get the chain back on, I had to slide this thing basically all the way forward. So I had to put this bolt, you can see there's a little bit of a gap there now, but I had to put this bolt all the way forward and I barely got the chain on. It was pretty tight, but it was just loose enough where I felt comfortable riding it without it like snapping kind of tight. But as you can see, I had to loosen it that much throughout the trip, and that's even what the chain looks like now. And I haven't removed or added any more links since the trip. So this chain just continues to stretch out. I do have a replacement chain that I brought with me on the trip just in case, but the chain is definitely a weak point. So you could probably just replace this from the start and be good to go. But I mean, you can see how much play is in this thing. It's kind of a lot, but I literally tightened it up every day, probably 2 times on this trip. And this was after already loosening and removing a link and a half before the trip started. The next thing is the rear suspension. That is super soft. Like I mentioned, probably 185, 190 on this bike, fully loaded, and I bottomed this thing out like crazy. I'm not jumping it, just trail riding, but even then, you can see that is from the rear tire hitting up there and just scuffing up that. So those are probably the 2 biggest weak points on this, the chain and that rear suspension. Other than that, power's pretty good. Great for putting around a yard. It is great for trail riding. I had a blast on this thing, kept up with the side-by-sides faster than most of them actually. But you know, the side-by-sides that knew how to drive and were very good were just, yeah, they could obviously blow me out of the water. You know, 1,000 cc side-by-side, some of them turbo model, some of them not, but either way, this thing did its job pretty good. Very happy with it for $3,300 brand new. I can obviously, you know, fix stuff. I'm probably going to replace the chain and sprockets. Supposedly, a 2006 CRF 250 suspension will fit on this bike. Not confirmed. I actually think I got a response from somebody in the Facebook group, so might be replacing that soon, which would be great. So aside from the chain and the suspension, the only other things that really went wrong on the trip were the starter eventually failed me on the 2nd day. By the 3rd day, I could sometimes kickstart it, which is nice. So this thing comes with an electric start as well as a Kickstarter right here. As you can see, yeah, we went through some deep water. It got a little muddy in here, and I think that might be what messed it up. So it might either be bad. I might just need to clean it. I'm not sure. I had the battery on a tender because the battery ended up dying from trying to start it. But either way, I think the battery's okay. You can kind of hear that it just doesn't start great. So I'm going to clean this off, try to get it fixed, but that's probably my fault. Yeah, I was going through some deep water, and by deep water, I mean like this is the electric starter right here. And yeah, I probably went through at least 1 or 2 puddles where the water came up to like here on the bike. So obviously you're not supposed to do that. That's, you know, on me. So it is what it is, but the bike started fine after that, right? It was just the electric starter system that probably got messed up, fried, whatever it is. So I might have to replace it. It might work if I can clean it off, but who knows? Right now it's still not really working. So yeah, 3rd day, pretty much exclusively bump started it half the time, which was pretty simple. Just put it in second gear, you know, get a little running start, jump on it, fires right up. So whatever, it worked for me. I was able to ride it all 3 days, like I said. The only other issue, you can see the zip ties right here, the exhaust. So this is a little bit more of a problem. I'm probably gonna have to remove all of these like plastics here. And luckily I have some friends that can weld, but you can see that this piece in here, actually you might be able to see it through this, possibly. Yeah, so you can see the bolt is kind of right down there. And yeah, that basically the bolt goes into like a frame mounted kind of like threads, and that frame mounted thread basically snapped off. So if we look back here, you can see that this entire muffler, like that all wiggles. And that's with the bolt in it still. So that should not happen. So if I can, and if they can, hopefully we can get that re-welded to the frame. Otherwise, there's really not much else you can do. That's the mounting point for the muffler. The only other place that the muffler mounts to the bike is obviously the header right there with those two bolts. So other than that, there's nowhere else to mount it. So that's quite a predicament. Luckily, the zip ties worked for the rest of the trip. The muffler doesn't get too hot to like melt these off. So that worked. The only other problem with the muffler is that right here where the, I can wiggle this off. Right here where the pipe connects to the muffler, this is also, I don't know if you can see it in this video, but basically that cracked all the way around. So I don't know if that's welded or what, but that was pretty cheap. So I'm actually gonna get some heat wrap the exhaust, and then I just have this like T-clamp thing or whatever they're called, and I'll just tighten it around that, and you know, hopefully that'll do the trick. But yeah, you can see she got pretty dusty, pretty muddy. There were times where I went through water and a giant wave basically came over my entire body. So yes, we definitely put her through the ringer, but she survived. I rode her all 3 days. So just got to fix a few things. I mean, the only thing, I could ride it right now. In this state, I could ride it. I rode it with the muffler was rattling. The muffler / exhaust pipe was rattling pretty much the entire weekend. That broke the first day. Yeah, the starter went out probably halfway through the second day, and I'm pretty sure it's from water. And then the chain I just kept tightening, but you know, nothing else. Like the engine didn't blow up, right? That's key. So it's been fun. It's been fun. $3,300. You get what you pay for. So just if you're curious about these bikes, that's my experience so far. So going to replace some stuff and keep trucking along. I obviously brought an extra chain. I have extra tubes for the front and rear tires. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I mean, I bring some tools and stuff like that when I go riding, but luckily I can throw those in a side-by-side. But it's been a fun bike, gets the job done. I'm not doing crazy jumps. I might try to replace the rear suspension, but otherwise, you know, it is what it is. I bottom her out, but she's a lot of fun. Works well enough for me. So yeah, that's my experience with the Kayo K2 230 dirt bike. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. If you have any advice, let me know. I might have to try to source, like, this thing sounds like it's clicking when I try to start it, so I don't know exactly what this thing is versus what this thing is and what might be wrong in here. So yeah, we'll have to play around with that. But either way, yeah, not too shabby. We are going back to Hatfield McCoy. I think beginning of July maybe we're heading back there, so we're gonna put her through the ringer yet again. I think we're going 2 days this time. We went 3 days this last time, so yeah. Kayo K2 230. It is what it is. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Maybe we'll have some dirt bike content. Might replace the batteries in this GoPro, get another GoPro or something, go riding with it. But obviously we have the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. I have a Ford Raptor, which is not here right now. And then the X3 M40i, this is Chelsea's car. So, you know, I have some older videos on this, but I don't drive this too often, just every now and then. Not as much where I have the Raptor, but as you can see, she took it today. So I don't have that here right now. But either way, 2 V8s. And a 230cc dirt bike. So that's going to be it, guys. Again, if you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, thanks for watching.